sometimes we have to kind of adjust and clean our own glasses.
Yeah.
Wipe our tears that might be in the way of seeing
Right,
it.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
But God's glory never ceases to be. Our challenge is to find it.
Welcome back to another episode of The Word Made Fresh, the weekly show where we look at upcoming narrative lectionary passages that are going to be preached from the pulpit of the Riverside Church and maybe in a church near you if you're not joining us at Riverside. I'm Reverend Jim Keat, Minister of Digital Worship and Education, joined as usual by Adrienne Thorne, the Senior Minister. And this is not her first appearance. I think it's number 2, maybe number 3. Reverend Dr. Lisa M. Weaver, our Executive Minister and Minister of Worship and the Arts. Reverend Weaver, good to have you back on The Word Made Fresh.
It is good to be back with you, colleagues and friends, Reverend Adrian and Reverend Jim,
Yeah.
on the day after the election.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to couch this with. So we filmed these in advance. We confessed that last week, and we're filming this on Wednesday, November 6th, in the morning still, which means we all just woke up with the official news that you all know about by now. So know that that's in the water of our conversation, and it's going to be in the air in our nation, obviously, for 4 years or so now. Yeah.
A little while.
So maybe that's a place to start. How do you approach a sermon knowing something big just happened that we're all feeling? The election results being finalized. And you're looking at this Isaiah 6 text, which is, a whole prophetic moment going on. We'll talk about the specificity in a minute, but just you are a homileticist at your core, Dr. Weaver. How do you approach it when there's like an eruption in society that we just need to incorporate into whatever's coming?
I think the first thing that I do that I never change is the prayer. Is God, what do you want to say to your people on this day? Right. And now, admittedly, when I got the assignment, the date, and the text, I'm like, okay, let me look at this. And, at first I was excited because I think the default of my formation always has me read this in a very homogenous context, i.e., a Black Baptist church context. And then I was like, oh no, no, you need to swing a bit. You at Riverside, so like, okay, Lord, what are you saying to that people and not those people? That was first. I was like, come back, like as Auntie Tabitha Brown says, focus tab. I said, come back. So I said, okay, what do you want to say? And so things start to come together, and this is even though it's a precious text to me, it's a more difficult text. It's a differently difficult text to preach in the context of Riverside before yesterday. Today has me contextualize it differently. It has me looking at historical and personality context, because the thing that I thought about this morning as I'm like, oh, okay, is administrative changes or government changes, how regimes change, right? Regimes change because of war, regime change because of elections, and maybe that's the meta regime change. But how do we understand, or administration, maybe I should say administration, how do we understand the administrative change in government when it is in a person? Right? And so this government, you have these external things. You have enemies, you have people with whom you are in disagreement or war. But what does it mean when a leader changes? Because I'm wrestling with, the year the King Uzziah died, right? King Uzziah was a good king until he wasn't. But right, but that changes, stuff starts at the head. So if King Uzziah was a good king and then kind of derailed, whatever we want to call it, what does that look like for the people
Hmm.
for whom he stewards, right? And then the other thing that occurred to me is Isaiah didn't get this prophetic breakthrough, if you will, until he died. And the question of why is it, not always, but why is it that sometimes we hear the clearest only after something has died?
Hmm.
Mm.
A dream, a leader, a hope. Like, why does God have to arrest our attention in grief?
Is that God though? I sometimes I think God has been trying to, it's like that joke with I sent you the boat, I sent you the helicopter, I sent you, like, how many messages do I have to send y'all before you get it?
Yeah.
And I feel like there have been some messages before this election. I would say from God saying, like what King said about America needs to check its arrogance. I will rise up and break the backbone of your power.
Right,
So I just wonder if it's God arresting us or God, giving us the kick in the pants because we just can't take this. Like when you say to your kid, stop doing that. Stop doing that. That dog's going to bite you. And then it's like you get bit and it's like, I tried to tell you,
right, right.
you know?
I, yeah, I think it is still. I hear you, Adrian, and I agree. I think it is still God.
Hmm.
I think it is still God because if we think about this individually, God will keep saying this. It's like, oh, I didn't get it. And, the first time was God and the fifth time was God. We just didn't hear God the first four times, or we wanted our way the first four times. But I think, what I like about your question is it makes me think collectively. What does it mean when some of us hear God and some don't? What does it mean when the vision is so clear? It's clear we're having spaghetti tonight. No, we're not. We're having pizza, right? When it's so clear, right? But everybody doesn't get it at the same time, and I think that speaks to the interconnectedness of the community that we don't really lean into or emphasize because we all have to be pulling in the same direction.
How do we show up when some people were a little later to catching wind of that word and others
Right.
might have caught it sooner? Do we have this like about time you picked? It's like, no, how do we still?
Right, and agreed. But the thing is, I don't. That's not an adversity. Is that when we don't all pull in the same direction, all of us experience the consequence for good or for ill,
That's
Yeah.
right.
right? And so, how do we, prophetic words? This Isaiah text is like, okay, everybody's experiencing this consequence, even though everybody wasn't on that page. So how do we? Then here comes Isaiah, right? And he's got this word. Okay, send me, right? If we, minus the nerdy commentary about was God talking to Isaiah, the angels, right? Presuming Isaiah, right? Send me. So you've got a community in captivity. You've got a king who has died, and now you have to speak a word. And so, Jim, going back to your initial question, how do you hold tonight? Is it prophetic? Is it pastoral? It's both. And the fact, Adrian, I like your question because someone asked me that some years ago. It's like, is it grace that God still speaks? I worry if God stops warning us. Because I think the fact that God still warns us means God still is invested in our getting this right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
When God stops warning us and sending us signs, God's like, all right, I'm just gonna call these people home or something, because clearly the earth thing is not working and they're not getting it. So come on up a little higher. I'm not ready, Lord. Well, you didn't get it down there, so I don't know. Yeah,
I
it's
I love the very well known statements right in the middle of this Isaiah text. The hearing the angels, holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of God's glory. And I like thinking about that in the setting you just gave us, the disruption of a king who's died, in the midst of transitions of administrations, when it seems like where the hell is God in the midst of this? Well, perhaps this statement is still true that holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts, and the whole earth might still be filled with the glory of God, even if at times it feels a little difficult. The
right,
whole earth, whoever
right,
sits in the White House, the whole earth is still filled with the glory of God.
Right.
Yeah, and I
Right.
think that is
That's good.
the preaching moment.
Mhm.
Even in our despair, to be able to get into the pulpit and remind people and even point out, there's a glimpse of God, there's a glimpse of the holy. God is still showing up. God is still, living and
Mhm.
active. Um, and it is harder to do in some moments, but I think, like Lisa said, by grace, hopefully you're the one who's able to see that, catch that glimpse, and remind people that it's still possible.
Right, right, right. And that God's glory is multivariate, meaning that sometimes God's glory is just sparkly, right? Like it's so clear, like something happens, and sometimes the challenge, like just Adrian, to what you said, that the whole earth is full of God's glory. Sometimes it's veiled,
Yeah.
sometimes it's opaque. Sometimes we have to kind of adjust and clean our own glasses.
Yeah,
Wipe our tears that might be in the way of seeing
Right,
it.
right.
Yeah.
But
right.
but but God's glory never ceases to be. Our challenge is to find it. And that when we join with the angels, who are crying holy, right? We join in that unending song, right?
And that, I think, can be the hope, because Isaiah is saying, "Send me," very much in contrast to last week, Jonah, who's like, "Get me out of here. I will live inside of a big fish," right? "I will be on the
Before I go to those
ocean,"
people. Yeah.
right? And so here we have someone who's willing to be sent, who's
Mm.
willing to do the hard work of
Mhm,
speaking out and speaking
mhm,
to the city,
yeah,
and, holding hope and light
mhm,
and love for the people. So,
yeah,
thanks be to
yeah,
God for the Isaiahs.
yeah.
And maybe that's the we need the combo of both of those stories, because sometimes we're a Jonah and sometimes we're an Isaiah, and that's okay. God works with Jonah and with Isaiah.
and and Adrian, I really like that. Might hear it next week or on 17th. Is that right? Like Jonah was like, "I'm out of here." The hubris of Jonah and the humility of Isaiah. I'm not worthy. Like I can't. And God just gives him this holy touch, sends the angels, right? That we don't need to be perfect or a preconceived, often fallacious notion of holy, or send me. We all can be sent. And if you lean into some particular New Testament text, if you understand one of my favorites, priesthood of all believers, we've all got a ministry, right? We can all be sent, not all to the same place, not all to the same task. So that's where discerning your assignment is important. But yeah, we can all be sent. Like our past is not an impediment to our prophetic future or
Amen.
participating in the prophetic future. Yeah.
Put that in the sermon. That line right there.
Uh,
That'll preach.
all right, send me the tape so I can like get it verbatim. Because I'll be like, Jim, what did I say? Yeah.
Oh well, this is going to be another Sunday, and another Sunday we all need. With the election results now, when this Sunday comes, there'll be a bit in our rearview mirror, but there'll still be a lot coming up ahead of us. It's not like the reality of it is going to be like, oh, old news. It's going to very much continue to be pressing news. So I'd love for us to end. Not a silly game, not like a 60-second sermon challenge, not put something on top of that. But my question is this: in this season, we're finding ourselves in November, December, and then January. We're going to have a transition of power and 4 years of this. What are I'll put myself as well too. What are we doing, like each of us as individuals, to just care for ourselves in these moments? How are you kind of practicing that sense of self-care? I know, Adrian, you invite us to do embodied things every Sunday from the pulpit, but I'd love just if we could end this with here's what three of your pastors are doing to care for ourselves in the midst of this time we find ourselves in. Adrian, let's start with you, since I feel like you
Yeah,
literally do this
sure.
all the time.
Sure. I um I feel like I'm swinging to a different place for myself personally right now. I am really reminding myself of who I am and where I came from. So I am the descendant of enslaved people. My mother was a daughter of sharecroppers who picked cotton and picked tobacco and is actually in the hospital recovering from a broken shoulder. But I come from really tough people, right? And I think that is really care for myself right now to remind myself um, of what I'm rooted in and who I'm rooted in. I did some work this summer thinking about who my saints are, and I have gone out and gotten photos of people. So I'm looking at Audre Lorde and Judith Jamison, Angela Davis, Muhammad Ali, Ketanji Brown Jackson. I've got Stacey Abrams over there and Shirley Chisholm. Of course, I've got MLK and Malcolm X. And I love sitting at this desk in the Riverside Church doing the work I feel called to do, surrounded by my saints, surrounded by my folks who help me to feel rooted um, for the both the rest and the work that I'm called to do. That's how I'm taking care of myself right now.
Whew, that's powerful and beautiful. I love it. I'll jump in next. So, Lisa, you got another 30 seconds to
Thank you.
organize your thoughts. Um, Probably no surprise to the two of you, and anyone who really knows me, but for me, a big thing is always running.
Yeah.
But that has felt different. Today, Wednesday morning, November 6th, I drop the kids off at daycare and I run home. I'm like, I'm going to run the longer way home today. I need a little more time to just be present with myself. And I don't do earbuds when I run. That's my space to not have like a thing connecting me to work and the world and all that. It's just space to be with my body and not just with my head. So running allows me to be an embodied person. And then I live in a small conservative Michigan town. So I'm running through a neighborhood that I know has lots of energies that aren't always what I resonate with. And how can I be just aware of the spaces I'm in? And you could call it a prayer run if you want, but I just think it's doing my best to be present where I am, in the place I am, as the person I am. And I know I need those moments just to clear my head and be present in those spaces. So some ways it's doing what I always do, but it has new meaning, especially on a day like today, and a new feeling on a day like today.
Yeah, yeah. I
All right,
flunk
Lisa,
rest.
what about you?
I flunk rest a lot. I just flunked that class a lot. But I have been giving more, at least mental assent to stop, you know, go home, you know, rest, put your phone down for an hour. You don't have to answer everything immediately. I'm trying to go out more. I'm trying to just go outside, connect with friends, and I'm trying to do things that I enjoy in the city. I'm back in New York. Like I said, I'm going to go to theater once a month. I think I've been twice this year.
And I probably took you to one of them.
You did, right? So I mean, not on my own agency, right? Like you got to be invited. So I'm trying to be intentional about that. And I said to
Yeah.
someone this morning, I said, I need to just really take care of myself. Because I have felt myself fraying. And I'm like, okay, you need to recalibrate. That's not good. God does not require that. So, I'm trying to like, I'm in repeat class, sometimes I'm slow, so I'm trying not to get an F next year. Yeah, so I'm working on it.
And it's a day
Well,
by day thing, right? And we're grateful, like you often pray us into prayers for God's new mercies because they're fresh every morning. So every minute, some of us every morning is too long.
Yeah,
Sometimes we need to do every hour or every minute, just trying to do the
yeah,
new thing that we're trying to do.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, and if anything, I love even just the things the three of us shared gives people space to find themselves in wherever they are in caring for themselves. Uh, Whatever that looks like. The important thing is that you are taking that space to care for yourself and be cared for in a community that is there with you. Which I hope Riverside can be that community. If you need a space, we want to be that space. Every Sunday, we do this thing, and we'll do it every Sunday until there's no Sundays left. And we do a lot of things in between. So join us on Sunday. The Carillon and the organ start playing music at 10:30. We've got open Bible study and some classes that happen about 9:30 or so. Stick around for coffee hour in the building, virtual coffee hour online. Basically, however you can show up in the room or online, we want to welcome you and have you be a part of what we're doing. Go to trcnyc.org to find out everything you need to know. And this coming Sunday, you are all in for a treat from this pastoral and prophetic word from the Reverend Dr. Lisa M. Weaver. Looking forward to it. Thanks for chatting about all this, and we'll do it
Thanks.
again on the next one.